just ask a couple questions here. How many people here believe, if you show of hands, that there might be other intelligent life somewhere in the universe? Now, okay. And then let me ask one last question. How many people here have actually had their own UFO encounter or sighting? So it's usually about 10%. So I think we've got about 10 people here out of 100, so that's about right. Okay, great. Thank you.
My name is Jan Harzan. I'm the executive director for MUFON. We are a scientific research organization that basically collects sighting reports from the public and then goes and investigates them. Our mission statement as an organization is the scientific study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. And we have three primary goals. We investigate UFO reports, we promote research into the UFO subject, and we educate the public on our findings. Within the UFO field, you have everyone from the true scientist who will only deal with what's physically in front of them to the far out fringes of the whole UFO phenomenon. MUFON is really more just left of center, where we try to take a scientific approach by collecting the data first off, and then reviewing the data, investigating the data, and making sure that what we're seeing is actually something that's truly an unknown. MUFON attracts very credible scientific individuals who have a sincere interest in this phenomenon.
My name is John Ventry. I'm the Pennsylvania State Director.
We have 3,000 members worldwide. Many scientists, physicists, PhDs, metallurgists, biologists, all the way down to just the average citizen who really wants to get involved. Some of those have chosen to become field investigators, and they go through our field investigative training courses. They become part of the team in their state or country where they reside, and they actually get engaged in going out and meeting this phenomenon head on.
My name is Jeremy Ray. I'm a field investigator with the Mutual UFO Network. I've been with them for about 7 years. I've been an investigator in Texas, California, and now Colorado.
We receive about 500 to 1,000 reports per month from around the world. Field investigators will take the case, generally review it, try to come up with a hypothesis, checking star charts, checking different things, and we'll go put an investigation in place to determine what exactly happened. In probably 75 to 80% of the cases, what ends up being the end result is an IFO. An IFO is an identified flying object. So natural phenomenon like the planet Venus, there's man-made phenomena like balloons, airplanes, things of that nature. But when you really crawl through it, we do have those very, very significant cases that are extraordinary. We've recently formed a science review board, and that board is made up of scientists from around the United States and around the world to review some of our more significant cases and try to render an opinion on them. What we'd like to do is be more outbound, more outspoken in terms of the really true UFO cases. So MUFON is moving forward with this approach, and we'll be publishing papers in these different areas to allow the general public and even the scientific community to be able to be challenged by what we're finding. That's the strength of MUFON as an organization, is being really the truth seekers of the UFO field.
There was an event that happened right here in Los Angeles, or down in Los Angeles, called the Los Angeles Air Raid. Now, it wasn't reported as a UFO event, but what happened was a large orange object glowing in the night sky was spotted. In those days, this was 3 months after Pearl Harbor, and the country was on high alert for bombers from Japan that might come fly in and try to bomb the mainland. So we had all these observers out all over the country. They were volunteers, and they would watch for enemy bombers or enemy aircraft. And when they spotted them, we had anti-aircraft guns, and we started shooting at them. Well, this night, they spotted it. They shot 1,430 rounds of ammunition. Ended up killing 6 people in Los Angeles on the ground. According to the papers, we didn't hit anything, but we have other reports that say actually 2 craft were struck. One crashed in the San Bernardino Mountains, and one was salvaged at sea by the Navy. Okay, so this one doesn't really get logged in, not so much as a UFO report, but it appears that it's kind of the inkling of this. But then, a few years later, in 1947, a guy by the name of Kenneth Arnold, who was out flying his aircraft as part of the Forest Service looking for a downed aircraft near Mount Rainier, spotted 9 what he called flying saucers out across the Cascade Mountains. And he clocked them at like 5,000 miles an hour based on his calculations where they had traveled from to at the time it took him to do that. And he called these things like flying saucers skipping across a lake. And he drew a picture here that he shared with the press. And so the press, liking little taglines, they picked up the word flying saucer. And that's how that term got coined. It got later changed to UFO, and there's probably reasons why that happened. But it all started really with Kenneth Arnold in terms of the modern day sightings of these objects. And then, of course, just 2 weeks later, we had the Roswell crash. Actually, 2 different craft crashed out at Roswell Air Base in Roswell, New Mexico. And the papers came out saying that the Air Force had captured a flying disc on this ranch in the Roswell region. We know that the next day, they came out with a retraction to that, saying that it was just a weather balloon. I just wanted to play you a little clip here, if I could, of a radio broadcast from that era on this particular event. So just stand by.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
So what he basically said was a disc was found by the Air Force, and it was taken to Wright Pat, which is where all the research was being done in those days. Of course, the story was retracted the next day, and they brought in a bunch of balloon debris and told the press that this is what it was, and pretty much the press went off and believed it and left. Next one, big sighting was back in '52, July, over the Capitol in Washington, D.C. We had craft seen flying at 7,200 miles per hour. We scrambled our jets. You'll see in the newspaper article in the bottom right-hand corner, the Washington Post, for Monday, July 28th, that a saucer outran the jet. The pilot revealed they would approach them and they would just disappear. And then they would leave, and then the craft would come back. Now, of course, the other famous sighting for Southern California was in Santa Ana in 1965, and that was the Rex Heflin photos. Rex Heflin was an Orange County highway inspector. He was at work in the county on his vehicle about 12:37 p.m. on August 3rd, and he noticed this object hovering over the road. So he grabbed his Polaroid camera off of the seat next to him and shot off 4 photographs of the object. 3 of the disc, and one of a black smoke ring that was left after the disc shot off into space. So these have been looked at by a number of experts. It's very hard to fake a Polaroid photo. No one has so far been able to debunk this as being an actual photograph of a craft. It's kind of a classic hat shape. The interesting thing, though, is that none of these craft all seem to have the same shape. They have all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So this is about the time that I had my own sighting, which got me interested in this whole subject. It was actually April of 1965. I was living in Thousand Oaks, California, and it was light outside. It was right before the time change, so the sun was up. But then we spun around, go back into the house, and right over here, 30 feet from us, was a landing craft, hovering 10 feet off the ground, making a humming noise like a high, the transformers you hear at nighttime, maybe on telephone poles, that humming noise they make, just frozen in the sky. It had 4 landing gear on it. It was very ornate. So my first reaction was, oh my gosh, these things are real, because I'm sort of staring at this object. It was probably no further than a screen. My second reaction was, oh my gosh, this thing looks like it's man-made. Now, why did I think that? Well, the object had landing gear on it, and there were crossbars like this on the landing gear, and there was a bolt in the center where it would scissor. So as it landed, the landing gear would compress, and this would kind of cushion it. So I'm looking at this bolt, but then I stared at it even further, and the craft was perfectly smooth. It was like if you took a brick and you blew it up to like 10 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet, completely smoothed all the edges and made a tank out of it. There was not a seam or a rivet in it. And I don't know if in 1965 we had the technology to build things like that and bend metals without putting rivets in it. But it was almost like ceramic with blown glass, but it was solid, and it was metallic, and it was bright orange. So it was very ornate. And the landing gear was cobalt blue. They were corrugated like dryer hose coming down out of it, and then black suction cups with these brown crossbars. So it was very colorful. So I said to my brother, I'm going to go in the house and get a camera. We had a very high-definition camera those days. It was a Brownie schematic. Grabbed the camera, ran back out, and the object was gone. My brother, standing on our swing set, climbed up the slide and standing out looking to the west over here. The west would be that way. And I said, what happened? He said, well, this craft just hung there for a minute, and then it slowly started to drift, and then shot off over the horizon. I said, okay. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We have only two full-time employees and 2 part-time contractors. Everything else is volunteers, so we have thousands of volunteers around the world. We have 9 members on our business board. They all volunteer their time. We have 1,100 volunteers who are acting as state directors, national directors, assistant state directors, chief investigators, and field investigators. They're the ones who do the heavy lifting. They're the ones when the reports come in, they get them assigned, and they go out and investigate. And then we have 3,500 members who basically subscribe to our journal, and then another 37,000 who subscribe to our newsletter, and then those who are viewing our TV show each week, which is now on the History Channel Fridays at 7 and 10 p.m. You can read more about the history on our website. Just go to About MUFON at the top there and click on it. There's much more detailed information than what I can share with you today. We get about 500 to 1,000 reports a month, which is a lot, from all over the world. We are probably going to be over 9,000 this month. The trend up, I don't believe, is because we're getting more UFOs. I think the trend up is because people are becoming aware that MUFON exists and there's a place to go report their sighting reports. But if you look at the data, as you might expect, the states with the most people are the ones who report the most UFOs: California, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan. But if you do it on a per capita basis, per 1,000, the 2 states that stick out the most are Arizona, almost 5 sightings per 100,000, and Maine. Those always seem to stick out. We also have New Mexico and some others, but these are the big ones. The first 2 are Arizona and Maine. So, just to summarize, are UFOs real? They're absolutely real. They're physical devices, seem to be under intelligent control, maneuvering accurately within our environment. They're having effects on both physical effects on our environment, as well as electromagnetic effects on people and vehicles that they encounter. If you'd like to find more about MUFON, I encourage you to go to our website, MUFON.com, or sign up for our free newsletter and start getting that for a few weeks. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. If you want to become a member, it's $35 a year. You'll get the electronic journal for another $20. You'll get the printed version mailed to your home. If you're a senior, you get a $5 discount on that. And then, if you can help us donate, we're trying to build staff and put more programs in place to get this out to the young students and the people at schools, so that as they grow up, they become very comfortable with this subject. So as they get into the corporate world, the academic world, the military, whatever they're going to do for their lives, that this is just an everyday thing for them. So thank you very much.